SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
FordofCorinth.com is the best place for your best deal on your next new vehicle, with tons of all new 24 models of all types on the lot. Check in on the special deals for Edge, Explorers, Expeditions, and the awesome Bronco Sports. That's FordofCorinth.com.
It's time for True American Heroes, For the Record, with Jack Rutland. Another exclusive on SuperTalk Mississippi 102.1 FM. Many of our heroes have taken their stories with them to the grave. But this show is about the stories and personal experiences of these veterans.
Greetings, this is Jack Rutland, and welcome to True American Heroes for the Record. And I must confess, I am very excited about the guest we have with us today, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Richard Weaver, who some of you may not know. His son-in-law and daughter live here in our community, but Mr. Weaver is from the Gettysburg, Pennsylvania area, and now he's down here visiting, and we found out about this opportunity, and we're just honored to have you here with us, Mr. Weaver. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, I got to tell folks a little bit about you before we get started, and you're sharing your stories. Mr. Weaver is a part of our greatest generation, a World War II veteran, one of those countless Americans who responded to the call of their country when the need was so great, and served in Europe as a part of the All-American Division, the 82nd Airborne Division, which, yes, that means he jumped out of perfectly fine running airplanes and parachuted to the ground, which I never have really understood, Mr. Weaver. but it was something that courageous young men like yourself did during World War II, and still, the 82nd Airborne is still in existence today. But we're excited to have you here, and we want to I can't tell you how I look forward to your sharing these stories with us. But let's get a little background. You lived in the Pennsylvania near Gettysburg when you were a youngster?
Yes.
Was it actually Gettysburg where you lived?
No, 5 miles east of Gettysburg in a little town called Bonneauville.
Bonneauville.
Yes. Which no one knows much about. Might I say, when I went into the service, I ended up down in Camp McCall in North Carolina. And the questions always fly, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? And, of course, a lot of the guys were from the South. Me being 18 years old, what do I know? I told them I was from Gettysburg. And I thought the Civil War was over. They were going to beat up on me.
Oh, because you were from Gettysburg.
After that, I was from Bonneauville. No one heard of Bonneauville.
That's quick thinking.
Yep.
Okay, so you were 18 when you enlisted.
Yes.
You volunteered, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Why did you volunteer?
It was a thing to do.
It was the right thing to do, wasn't it?
Yep.
I guess a lot of friends were enlisting.
And actually, I think most of us prayed that we did make it.
Yep.
We didn't want to be called a 4F'er.
That's right.
Yep.
Wow, times have changed, I'm afraid.
They sure have.
Well, let's talk a little bit. Now, the training for a paratrooper. Now, you told me a funny story a while ago about they misunderstood what you said when you enlisted. Tell that story again.
Well, I was told by the authorities that if I volunteered, I could choose my own, like the Navy or the Air Force. And I said, oh, okay. I chose the Air Force. Well, they must have misunderstood me. I ended up in the Airborne.
Quite a difference.
Yeah,
quite a difference.
Quite a difference.
Okay, so you went to Camp McCall for your training.
Yes.
Now, I have read and I have seen some of the documentaries. Airborne training is a lot different from regular basic training.
Yes.
And it's pretty intense is what I understand.
Yes.
and the physical demands were just unbelievable. Can you tell me about some of the things that happened while you were at Camp McCall that made a real impression on you?
Well, we ended up in Camp Forest in Tennessee, and the call went out for more paratroopers, and we were given the opportunity to take the course, and we ended up at, as I say, Camp Forest. And the worst thing, I believe, for me anyhow, wasn't jumping out of a plane. It was jumping out of that doggone
the tower?
Tower. That was the worst thing. Oh, because you were right there, and I didn't like that, but we made it.
It was to prepare you for what it was, a simulated paratrooper jump.
A simulated jump, yeah.
Okay, so I understand that there's a real emphasis on just the physical training.
Yeah.
You ran everywhere, you wore your full packs, and you just mile after mile after mile, because most paratrooper missions, if I get this correct, tell me if I'm not, most paratrooper missions were behind lines. You oftentimes would be behind the enemy.
Oh, yeah.
So therefore, your physical condition might mean the difference in life or death.
Yeah, yeah.
So you guys did a lot of running when you were at training.
Every morning we ran 5 miles.
5 miles?
Before we had anything to eat during training.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you finished your training.
Well, when I jumped out of that tower, I went, Yahoo! And that wasn't the right thing to do. And I had to run around all the guys that were in training with my hands like this. I must grab my risers as loud as I could scream.
And that's the cords that were attached to the parachute, and your hands would be above your head.
Yeah.
And that was what you were instructed to do.
Yeah. I must, but I didn't. I yelled, Yahoo!
Well, what kind of reaction did that get from your Sarge?
He gave me trouble of running around the whole group of guys. I must grab my risers.
So that you got a little punishment.
Oh, yeah. About a half hour's worth.
About a half hours of running.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first time you actually jumped out of an airplane, okay, that was while you were still in training. Tell me, do you remember what you were going through?
Oh, my gosh.
Come on, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, fortunately, they knew what they were doing. The first stick, which meant there was 2 sticks.
And that's the group of men that were jumping.
Yeah. Only had 3 guys. Yeah.
And normally it would have?
At least 10 or 12.
Gotcha.
Easily. And when they jumped out, I looked out and the plane banked around, and I saw 3 white chutes. Oh, okay, they made it. We don't really know what to expect. After the first one, you know what to expect.
So you get to the door, and it jumped one at a time, and you get to the door, and the jump master says, jump, and you jump.
Yep.
And now what happens? I read, but now you tell me what it's like.
Well, I do remember my cheeks.
The wind.
Yeah.
The prop wash.
Yeah. You drop about 75 feet before you know it. And when that chute opens, it snaps your head back, and you look up and see that beautiful
parachute.
Well, I looked up and I thought, wow. I looked down and I grabbed my risers, and I knew they said if you pull on them, you're going to slide. I went, whoop.
You didn't like that. That was to kind of give you some control of the direction you were going. Okay.
I heard from the ground, number 3, that was me. I'm not going to use the words he used on me, but I stopped doing that.
Said, don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So during training, you actually did 1 jump, or did you do more than 1?
5.
You did 5 during training.
Yeah.
And it was, I've seen the videos of how you guys did that. You would take little short, choppy steps in the plane, and then you got to the door, and the guy would hit you on the back.
Well,
or how did that happen?
When the green light came on, the first guy went, and you're like zombies. I thought you just went.
Just one right behind the other.
Yeah, there's no.
And if you hesitated, the guy behind you pushed you.
Could very well be. But
this is pretty incredible.
Never had anyone refuse to jump.
Wow.
But that happened. And instructors, if they had jump boots on, they literally cut them off of them.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
We're actually interviewing Mr. Richard Weaver, who is the son-in-law and daughter live here in town, and he was a member of the 82nd Airborne in World War II, and we're just so honored to have you here sharing these experiences with us. So when did you get the word that you were headed overseas?
I guess that was in July.
1944? 44? Mm-hmm. 43?
We left in August. So.
Okay, left in August, okay. So did they tell you where you were going?
Nope, they don't tell you that.
So you went by ship, I imagine.
Yeah, we knew we were going to ETO.
European Theater of Operation.
Right, yeah. But where, we had no.
Okay, now was that the 82nd Airborne then that you were a part of?
No, that was the 17th.
You were still in the 17th?
Yeah.
And you were headed to Europe, and where did you actually go? Where did they send you first? Was it to England?
England.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. And we're right at the point of taking a break, so we're going to do that right now. Mr. Richard Weaver, Rich, as he's known to his friends, is our guest today, a member of the 82nd Airborne, a World War II veteran, and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back, and today we're honored to have with us Mr. Richard Weaver, who is a World War II veteran, a member of the famous 82nd Airborne, the All-American Division, and he's been so gracious to come in here and share us some stories with us. All right, when we took our break, Mr. Weaver, you had just arrived in England. Of course, you guys always train. You never stop training and running and preparing for whatever. But your first assignment wasn't far away, and it was right in the middle of winter. Tell us about what happened.
Well, you're talking about the Bulge now?
Yes, sir.
We're out of England.
Go ahead and tell us when you got to, well, how long were you actually in England before you got the assignment of going to the Battle of the Bulge?
The Germans broke through on December the 16th. Mm-hmm. They started the Battle of the Bulge.
That's correct.
And it was very fortunate for them because the fog was terrible.
Right. Weather was terrible.
Every day we would go out to the airport and nobody could fly.
You guys were ready to go.
Yep.
To jump into that battle, but the weather kept you guys from getting in.
And we knew we had mixed emotions. We knew the kids were getting killed over there.
That's right.
By the Germans.
Those boys that were surrounded. That's right. There at Bastogne.
We wanted to be there to try to help them because we knew from what the reports were, they were getting slaughtered. And every day we go to the airport and back to the barracks. And I was told that Eisenhower put out an order to all the chaplains, you will have your men pray that the fog lifts. Guess when it lifted?
It lifted.
Christmas Day.
All right, so Christmas Day, that meant you guys.
We were in those planes heading into the Bulge.
Okay, so this is the first time your group has jumped into combat.
Well, we didn't jump in. We landed, I don't know, someplace in Belgium or France.
Gotcha.
Cold, bitter, dark. And we finally ended up in, I don't know, I guess it's a Quonset hut. I have no idea. And some of the guys were sniffing and crying. And I'm like, they're 6-foot guys. And my lieutenant walked in and said, I need 3 volunteers to go for ammo. I put my hand up. 2 other guys did. And the 6-foot guys should have been macho, right? Guess what? They screamed, don't go, don't go. You're going to get killed. I said, I'm not staying with you ball babies.
Now, you got to tell us how tall you are. You're not 6 foot tall. Are
No, I'm not even close to it.
So you had to go out for ammunition. Do you remember? Was that uneventful? I hope.
Well, within minutes, I was being shot at by a German plane.
Oh my goodness!
You're not supposed to have any lights on, right?
Right.
And the driver of the 6x6 had the lights on. I banged on the top of the hood. We had to stay in the back, turn the lights off. And the plane made a circle and started. And all three of us hit the top of it and screamed, "Turn those." We had an expletive in with the lights. And stop it. Well, he stopped it. He finally looked up and saw the plane coming at us. And fortunately, there was a big tree there. He sent us around that tree, I don't know how many times, and finally left.
Goodness.
And never hit a thing.
Goodness.
But I said, "What the heck is this?"
But it got your attention, I bet.
They're about a half hour and they're already shooting at me.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty incredible. Goodness. So you finally did get the ammunition and get it back to where it needed to be. What took place next? Because the Battle of the Bulge, the Germans made that big push, surrounded a lot of American soldiers at Bastogne and other places, and some of them were the 101st.
Yeah.
Some of your distant cousins. But you guys were on one side. I can't remember which side, but you were supposed to rescue and break through the lines to get those Americans out.
Well, at least stop the Germans.
You had to actually stop they're going into.
What the Germans did was send a lot of young kids over here to college and to learn English fluently. You heard about that.
Yes, sir.
And they put them on, they walk up to let's say a crossroad, and the MPs were guarding that crossroad, and walk up to the guys and, "Hey, Joe, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. You have a cigarette?" Perfect English. And the MPs would put their guns more or less to the side.
Didn't get shot.
Kill them, yeah. So we were armed.
And they were wearing American uniforms, which is dirty pool.
Yep.
So you guys are on the ground in the Battle of the Bulge. Your responsibility was to stop the Germans, break through, and rescue the Americans. Mm-hmm. That was pretty intense. The weather was bitter. One of the coldest winters in history, that particular winter.
Yeah, it was cold.
You had to fight through the weather and rescue those other guys.
Well, we weren't ready for that type of winter at all. I think Eisenhower thought that it's that cold, the Germans won't do anything. Well, in essence, I believe that it was a blessing, if you will, in disguise, because the Germans ran out of everything.
Sure did.
And
they overextended.
That perhaps saved a lot of lives later on.
You're maybe right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So now, how long were you guys involved in the Battle of the Bulge?
From December until, I guess it was almost March.
So what kind of weapon were you carrying? Were you carrying an M1 or a Thompson or?
Thompson.
Okay. Thompson machine gun. So you were in a platoon, probably were in a squad, and what kind of responsibilities did you have during the Battle of the Bulge?
Maintaining the kids who got killed records on them.
Goodness.
Officers, yeah. It's sad. Well, all wars are sad. And beautiful young men, pictures in their wallets, and lovely wife back home.
It was hard. It was hard.
They're gone. We had sergeants come in almost every day, 19-year-old kids. Make them a gentleman, an officer, knowing full well somebody's going to take his place within a couple of days.
Yep. The young officers didn't last very long in combat.
No.
It was such a demanding time. I'm sure you lost a lot of friends, a lot of people that you went through jump school and served with.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine what it was like to be with a friend, and then the next thing you know, he's gone.
You try not to make friends. But you had to.
You had to, because that's how you made it. Your guys there
Yeah.
with you. So what helped you get through it?
Yep.
The Battle of the Bulge was a turning point in the war. I think the Germans overextending themselves, it did make a difference, and the 82nd Airborne played such a significant role in that, and what you and your
My 17th at that time, yeah.
was doing. That's right.
Yeah.
Excuse me, the 17th.
We suffered, I was told, the highest casualties of the Bulge, the 17th, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the Battle of the Bulge was right in the middle of winter, right after Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys were all up in the middle of that. So the Battle of the Bulge actually, do you remember when it started to wind down? When did it actually slow down? Was it in January?
In January, the latter part of January. Yeah.
There's still a lot of bitterness out there, and they didn't have, if I remember correctly, y'all a lot of times couldn't even build a fire because that made you a target.
Yep,
so you were eating cold food and suffering below zero temperatures.
One story I can tell, and you may get a laugh out of it. We had no idea where we were at, and it was dark, and we had to dig a hole to put our garbage in, right? Mm-hmm. And no lights, and some guy was walking along carrying his mess kit, just got his lunch, and he stepped in that hole. After about 500 guys threw their garbage in there.
Well,
his language was not good.
And things like that happened because life had to go on. Even though you were fighting a war, life had to go on.
Yeah.
Well, we are interviewing Mr. Richard Weaver, whose family is here in Brookhaven, Lincoln County, and we're really having a real good interview, and we've got a lot of other things we want to talk about. So we're going to wrap up this session, and then we're going to come back with part 2 of Mr. Richard Weaver, a member of the Paratrooper during World War II, a member of the Greatest Generation. And don't miss this second show.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.